my god, it does. You look like
I'm about
with
to
the
sell you toner. Thank you very much.
with
For
the
the printer that you don't have.
with the bun and the everything.
It really does. It almost like your shirt looks like it could be a blazer.
Hello, would you like to buy some printer for your toner?
I already
So
started.
your
So
toner for your printer.
we got a little bit of
Some
the
printer for
toner.
your toner.
Are you gonna start?
That was me starting. You ruined it. But hi, how you doing? Welcome to the February 2024 Nutty Nook Book Club, recording late March. So we had a little delay, but it is what it is. That's how these things go. Not putting any fingers, but Suriname took forever to finish the book. But
Okay. You also delayed the recording. If I have a deadline, I'm good. But if you tell me at some point we'll need to do this, then I'm gonna procrastinate.
We were scheduled for last weekend, and you couldn't finish the book. Remember that?
I could
It was
have.
Sunday, and you were like, I still have 70 pages left, and I'm like, forget it.
I also went to sleep.
No, I heard about that too.
I accidentally took a nap. I was like, I gotta finish these 70 pages. And I fell asleep with the book in my hand.
Yeah, well, I hope that's not a prelude to how interesting you found the book. This one will probably not be as long as the first one because we're not doing two 400-page books. We're just doing one 400-page book. And with it being February, we went with kind of a romantasy. Not that we didn't do that the first time. And I don't know. I think that we're probably just going to end up being a romantasy book club. But as we usually do, I'm going to make our secretary go ahead and give us a little recap of the book.
Oh, is that me?
Well, you are the one that looks like a secretary right now.
All right.
Oh, toner salesman. That's what we decided on.
Toner salesman.
Oh no! It won't focus.
Oh no. We're off to a great start.
Well, here's the picture of the two
picture,
main characters.
The picture's in really. It looks like we're not allowed to show the title. It looks like
my God.
blurred.
So
you
here's
can see it
the
on
two
the
main
bottom of the
characters.
overlay. It's down there. So.
This book was Spoiler Alert by Olivia Dade, and it was about Marcus, who, yes, spoiler alert, was about Marcus, who is an actor on a show similar to Game of Thrones, but
the show
more,
was Game of Thrones.
But it was more like Roman Greek type.
Sure.
But
go ahead.
It was
we'll get
it
to
was
that in a
very
second.
much
Go ahead,
like
yeah.
the Game of Thrones thing. Anyways, and he ran a server similar to this Discord server about fanfic where, ironically, the main character was on there. Her first name was April. I kept wanting to call her Lavinia because that was her screen name.
Yeah.
Everyone has 5 names in this book.
Yes.
Everyone has so many names.
Yes. April is a geologist by day and a fanfic writer by night. And she's also a cosplayer, or wanting to be a cosplayer.
Like a newly cosplayer.
Yes.
Closeted cosplayer.
Yeah.
In the beginning.
April is a plus-size heroine, so woot woot for plus-size people. But that's also why she's the closet cosplayer, because she can't find a costume that she really likes, so she's designing her own. Anyways, long story short, they get into it, not like, I wouldn't say heavy-handed. I would just say they develop a relationship, and then
I just want to point out, because just a key detail is that the Marcus that's on the show is running the server, but anonymously.
Yes,
so
nobody knows that he
knows
is the one who's running,
including April, who doesn't know that it's Marcus behind the screen of this person that she's been talking to online for years. So just keep that in mind. That's a key distinction.
Yeah. And of course, he doesn't tell her And then
Why would he? I mean,
it just snowballs.
snowsballs.
And snowballs. It just snowballs. And this is what happens when we record at night. My brain just
That's why we record at night. Because I like this Bloom World. Okay, this is why we record at night. When it's just slightly loopy, that's where we get the gold.
Anyways, do you want me to say anything else about this book?
Okay, so I think you've got the gist of it. So yeah, so he's running this server secretly because he's afraid that it'll damage his career if it comes out that he's writing fanfic, because the fic that he's writing is very critical of the show. And I guess let's talk about, let's just get into talking about like how they first met, because she was a closeted cosplayer, and like you said, she was plus size, so she was very hesitant to actually put her pictures and things out there. And so she does, and then she starts getting a lot of negative comments on Twitter or wherever, whatever the kids use these days. And he sees that and, attempts to white knight and says, hey, I think you look great. Let's go out on a date. And then on that first date, that's when he finds out. She comes right out and tells him who she is, and then he just clams up. So let's talk. Let's just start there, and I want to hear the opinion of you about how that played out. Did he have a valid reason for not bringing it up right then? And just what do you think about the whole situation?
I feel like he did have a valid reason. Because, I mean, yes, I guess he knows her as, like, this person online. But who's to say, like, she couldn't have just turned around? And plus, their first couple of dates were so public. Yeah. Like, people were following them around. People were taking pictures of them constantly. So, like, I don't blame him at all, especially considering they're in the middle of a restaurant.
True.
And he was still, like, putting up this persona. Because another thing about him is that he acts, like, dumb and just like the goofy golden retriever actor when he's actually... Because he's insecure because he has dyslexia. And so he has been very insecure.
Refused to acknowledge it, so they kind of treated him like he was just a failure or dumb.
Right, so he has a lot of...
By the way.
He has a lot of insecurities about that. And so... I think he's distrusting, so I think he was valid for not coming right out the gate with it.
Well, and I think it's also important to point out that I think there was like a gag clause in his contract. Like, I think that anybody who was on the show, and that kind of came out with his best friend, who he was introduced at the start, but you kind of develop more of a relationship with his best friend,
right?
And his best friend's just like F a bunch of that, and just like lights a match and says let it burn. I kind of want to read the second book because it's all about the best friend.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
And then I looked into the third book, and it's about the guy with the fish.
Are you serious?
Oh, who cares about that guy?
Are you serious?
Okay, well, we'll talk about the guy with the fish. I want to get into that because that was an interesting subplot.
Yeah.
Also, let's just lay this out. Let's try to think and remember everyone's name. So Marcus is the main character. He's the actor on Gods of the Gates. Is that what it is? Okay. Who listened to the audiobook? And who read the book?
I read the book.
Audiobooker. How do you pronounce his character's name?
Aeneas.
Aeneas. How did you pronounce it, Suriname?
Aeneas.
Aeneas is how I was saying it.
Aeneas.
Aeneas.
Because it was AEN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I knew that Aeneas couldn't be right. Just Aeneas. So Aeneas, is that how it was said?
Aeneas.
No, Aeneas is right. Anyway, okay. And then his pen name, in which he wrote under on the, and it was a Lavinia server, because the two main characters from the show were Lavinia and Aeneas. So it was, it was a coupling name, and the whole server was basically just fanfic for those two. His was Book Aeneas Would Never, right?
Book Aeneas Would Never.
Book Aeneas Would Never. Yeah. With an exclamation point between Book and Aeneas. And I get that that's probably some kind of like internet thing. but every time I wrote it, I was like, "Book!" Aeneas would never. Like, every time I read the name. And then later, once he starts dating her, he decides that he can't write under that name anymore. He can't contact her anymore. So he changes and has yet another name, which is
Aeneas loves Lavinia,
Lavinia.
I
That was
think.
it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So we're up to 4 for him. So then we have April. And what was hers?
Unapologetic Lavinia stan.
That was it.
Right?
Yes.
That was
And he
it.
called her Elsie. Or
Ulcie.
Ulcie.
Yeah.
Ulcie. Yeah. Oh, she only have 2? I guess she only had 2.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
never changed her name.
Yeah. Anyway, I did think it wasn't really hard to keep track of them, but they would like kind of interchangeably start like using them, and it was very much like a Clark Kent Superman situation because they would refer to them like they were different people, and I'm like, whoa, this is getting messy. So, I'm glad you both said that though, because I too thought he had very valid reasons for not telling her up front, and I thought I was gonna be out. I thought I was gonna be like the guy, and you all were like, "No, he's such an ass," and I was gonna be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay." Now, do you think he waited too long?
Yes.
When was the appropriate time to tell her?
I feel like he got himself into a spot where he did wait too long and then was like, well, now if I tell her,
Yeah,
she's going to
definitely.
leave me. So he's just like, I'm just never going to do it.
I think I
Yeah.
don't think he ever was gonna tell her.
I don't think
She
he was
obviously finds out. I mean, she kind of catches him up because she's sharp. She is sharp, man.
I really like her as a main character.
I did
Yeah.
too. She was unapologetic. She was strong. She was confident. She was secure in her own body image. I really liked that. And she was sharp because she catches him up in like the smallest of slips.
Yeah.
Because I mean, she just had this really bad day with her parents. Basically told her mom that she never wanted to see her dad again, and that she wouldn't see her mom again if it was with him. And then he's trying to comfort her in the car, and it's just one tiny, I can't even remember what it is.
I think he says, like, I know that you've had issues on, like, dates before with people making comments. I didn't realize you had it with your dad.
Yeah.
And she had only told Bond that online.
Bond. Yes. Book. Aeneas would never.
Yeah.
Shortened to Bond.
B-A-W-N.
Name number 5.
Yeah. And so she was like, I never told you that. And then, and I don't think the fight would have blown up as much if it wasn't like just after that
I do too.
confrontation with her mom.
I am glad he came out then and didn't just keep trying to double down on the lies.
Oh, yeah.
I was
Agreed.
really expecting that. Although he was a very well-written character too, I think. I mean, he never judged her for anything. And even when he white knighted in the beginning, he legitimately found her attractive because it was the first thing he was like, whoa.
Yeah. No, I was about to say that is even when he saw her picture on Twitter, it wasn't like he white knighted her to protect her from the hateful comments, but he also genuinely found her attractive.
Yeah. I would argue he found her attractive earlier and more than she found him attractive. Because when they first meet, she's not into him as the Marcus.
She's
character.
like ready to get out of the date.
Yeah. Because of his persona.
I
will say, if I remember correctly, didn't they have like a 4-hour drive to her parents' house?
It was
something
a
like that.
long drive.
Like,
yeah.
I feel like during that drive, that's maybe when he should have been like, hey, I'm this person. Instead of...
I don't
and like
know,
having a
though.
conversation beforehand, because I feel like the scene with her parents would have been much different. Even though I feel like the scene with her parents needed to have happened.
It did. I think that whole day wasn't the time to do it because even telling her on the way there then upsets her for that. Then she goes into the other situation emotionally compromised. I mean, they were living together for months. I mean, I don't know. He had opportunities, I think, but I could see it from his perspective. Once it passed that, once he was finally confident that she wasn't going to tell the world who he was, he was already too late. It took him too long to get to that point. And then he dug a deep hole for himself.
Yeah.
And I mean, he had started lying, like not just like omission lying, you know, he was like actively asking her what fan fiction was and stuff like that. So it got to the sticky part where it's not just, oh, I didn't tell you. It turned into, oh, I lied about it, which is a different thing.
Because he had to. He had to keep up because he wanted to be a part of that because he was already a part of her life there and he wanted back in. But to get back in, he had to. Yeah, I'm kind of surprised she didn't figure it out. Like, I don't know. He was pretty good about his lies, and he's a good actor, I suppose. So
right. See, I kind of saw the book going that she would figure it out, but not like she caught him up in it, but like he told her something about him, and then she was like,
yeah.
But you know what I mean? But it was kind of refreshing because I saw both sides. Like I understood her being pissed, but I also understood why he wouldn't have told her.
Yeah. I, as the reader, I wasn't necessarily upset that he didn't tell her. I was upset that it kind of went on for so long because I felt like there were better parts that he could have said it, and then he was just dragging his feet.
Yeah.
And I was just like, just tell her already. Like, oh my God, I'm exhausted from like waiting for you to drop this ball.
Yeah, it took a while, and then when it happened, you were like, "This is not how I wanted this to happen. Come on!"
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
it's definitely a third act.
Oh, it's late.
The third act
it's late
breakup.
in the book.
Yeah,
like last 100 pages, easy, right? Or,
yeah.
even less. I'm glad they didn't do this because this is what I expected. Towards the back half of the book, they're going to a con, the Gods of the Gates con. And she's supposed to be going with him. And I mean, they've been seen in public before, but this would have been like we're like officially a couple kind of thing. And then she starts talking to the actress that plays Lavinia on the show, right? And gets invited to run her panel. I was really expecting her to find out like right before some kind of panel and then start grilling him on stage because that's the way these things go.
Right.
You know, and then it was going to be this big public blow up. I'm so glad they did not go in that direction.
I agree. I agree because that would have just proven his fears and why he shouldn't have told her.
It would have, and it would have made her seem, I think, a little bit more petty. And I don't think that's her character. I don't think she would do that.
I agree.
And I was preparing myself for a late game out of character like breakdown at the con. But
I will have to
oh, go
say, the only thing I will have to say, I really liked how the characters were written because it wasn't the pettiness. Like it was like we're gonna have mature conversations. We're gonna talk about hard stuff. Like we're not just gonna breeze over it or ignore it. You know, like with his dyslexia, like they had that hard conversation and like how he grew up and like with her size and like how other people have made her feel on dates, like they had that hard conversation. And so like I think that's why I was so annoyed that he waited so late to tell her who he was because I was like, you can have these hard conversations, both of you.
Yeah.
Like neither one of you are afraid to dive into something. Like just get it like
he did have those abandonment issues. I mean, his parents were still around, but they really had kind of written him off. I mean, they had been actively writing because they were both historians or
something
or
professors,
English majors, professors.
Yeah.
He got cast on this show, which was a Game of Thrones type show, but based on, I guess, what was
like a classic.
Is it a real story?
Yeah.
The base core story. What was it?
I think it is.
Or is that
Aeneid or something?
Yeah, is that a real thing? I mean, you could see.
I don't know. I also wondered if it was a play on like the Iliad.
That's kind of what I got too, because it sounded
like those
that.
aren't the characters in the Iliad, but like
right.
I just kind of got the vibe that it was something similar.
So Aeneas and Lavinia were a real story from Roman mythology.
Okay.
Okay.
So they were historians or whatever based on the original mythology. And so they started, their son got cast on this show. And then they start just writing all of these exposés about how awful it is. And they just keep going and going and basically just discrediting all of his work. So I got the abandonment from him. I see why he didn't want to tell her. But then
I also feel like he didn't really, like, they had talked about past relationships, and he had never really had a relationship that meant anything to him.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I think because he put on a public persona for so many people for most of his life, like, to actually be himself and be vulnerable with somebody, he was probably just so afraid to lose that he, like, just couldn't risk it.
And I found that interesting too, because here you have someone who, in April's perspective, everyone in her life is telling her, especially her mother, you shouldn't be comfortable with who you are. You should not be this way. You should be uncomfortable. And she's like, no, I'm not. And then you have Marcus, who is this beautiful movie star who everyone loves, and he is too afraid to be himself. I thought that juxtaposition was just so interesting.
Yeah.
It was just a great, and I liked it. I loved her character, and I loved seeing him just be like, I am too afraid to be myself, even though on the outside it looks like he has everything.
Agreed.
You know, I
And
just
it
thought
kind
that
of,
was interesting.
and you kind of see that in their first date too, because a lot of people think like when you're if someone attractive is dating like a bigger person, that they must just have a really great personality, and that it's like you got to know them and you had to have fallen for the personality and not necessarily their looks. And
which was not the case.
Which wasn't the case. Like, he immediately found her physically attracted.
Dude is horny for this girl, as he mentions a lot.
A lot. And she, I feel like, wasn't attracted to him until she saw, like, him. The real him.
She did not, I mean, she thought, like, oh, you're cute, but she really had to
But
get
not
to know
like,
him. But yeah.
She even said, like, she would have preferred to have been his friend. That's also on the show.
Was it the one that plays Cupid, the one we were talking about? Yeah.
Alex.
Yeah.
Alex, Cupid, and then eventually he starts writing fan fiction, and he gets a pen name, and do you remember?
Can't remember his pen name.
Something. It has Cupid in it.
Yeah.
Isn't it something with pegging?
I know all of them involve pegging.
Okay. A side note. My favorite part of this whole book are the in-between chapter excerpts from stuff.
Yes.
So between every chapter, there would be an excerpt from an old play that Marcus did, or a screen, and they would always be the bad ones.
The cheesiest.
So cheesy. Towards the end of the book, though, and by the way, this book is explicit. I mean, there is some sex scenes.
Yeah.
They're very graphic. I mean, not when I say graphic, they're descriptive sex scenes.
Yeah, descriptive.
Towards the end, though, his friend who plays Cupid on the show, who, by the way, hates the show, actually absolutely hates the show, hates the direction it's going in, he starts writing, because apparently there's this subculture that really wants Cupid to get pegged by somebody. And if you don't know what pegging is, I'm not going to tell you. Just go Google it.
Just go look it up.
Just go Google it. Turn
We're not here for
safe
that.
search off, then Google it. Thank me later. And then he just goes wild. So then you just start getting these excerpts from his stories, and they are hilarious.
Oh my god! The one at the end ever. That like pretty much mirrors Marcus and April's like getting back together thing, and then it was like, and that night she pegged him for the first time, and that's just how it ends.
That's just how the story is. That's my favorite part.
I just love it.
They were so good. Oh my god.
Yeah, the movie scenes were some of my favorite of like the cheesy rom-coms he's been in. Cracked me up.
The terrible dialogue.
Yes.
Yeah, I love. But then some of them were like good. And some of them I was like, oh, I want more of that. Like, I don't want this little excerpt to end. Yeah, those were very clever. Very clever way to do this.
I'm not gonna lie, as the audiobook listener, I was so confused for like the first 6 chapters.
I could see
because
that.
I was like, I have no idea what's going on or where this is coming from. Like, what is happening right now?
Oh, it didn't, because there's no break. It doesn't have a title.
There's not.
Yeah, it just kind of shows up at the end.
It just
you can
keep
tell
going.
in the book because the font's different. Like, it usually looks like it's written like a screenplay, but yeah, in an audiobook, I could. I had a little bit of that with Fourth Wing every now and then, because they'd be, like, this is a letter. Oh, okay. Like, I would just kind of be like, oh yeah, that's what they're doing.
Did they read like in the audiobook, like when they had like an excerpt from her AO3, did it read like all the tags at the top?
Yes.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So
It did.
AO3, by the way, is another server because April writes on 2 different fanfic servers.
So AO3 is actually a website that like is pretty much
Is it a real
fanfiction.net's
website?
new thing.
Yes.
Yeah, it's real.
Oh, I forgot. Suriname actually used to write fanfiction. I will turn this over to you. You are the expert here.
I am a pro fanfiction writer, reader, all the things. So AO3 is Archive of Our Own, is what it's actually called.
Oh.
And it was started by I think 2 girls that just like because fanfiction is really buggy, especially from a writer's like from someone who uploads it. It's just really buggy, and there's a lot of ads, and like it kind of got bought and changed a few times, and so it just wasn't the server it used to be. And I think these 2 girls just started this website, and you have to actually like apply to be able to join. And so like it's not like a real application thing. You kind of just have to send in to prove you're not a bot because they're trying to like weed off anything like that. So like you have to agree to certain things and then answer a couple questions, and then they'll email you back saying like, here's your stuff for you to create your account. But yeah, so the tags cracked me up because in Archive of Our Own you can have, so they have tags that you can search to like tag for your story, but you can also create your own. And I've read stories that have the same tags as some of hers. Like,
oh really?
Like smut with feelings is like a popular tag, and like so it just felt very legit. Like it felt so like close to home.
You're telling me that she did that? So this was research done. Like these were actual, because some of those like smut with feelings, it just to me from the outside seemed like April just making stuff up, and some of them were because April's like the author should have done blah 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 blah. Actually, it goes on for a whole sentence, but
no, even the layout, like that's why I thought it was so cool, like the chapter inserts, because it looks like if I pulled up my phone and went to the website, that's what the story layout looks like.
Oh, cool!
Like the font's even the same. Like it was like that's why when I got to the first one, I was like, I'm gonna really like this because it feels like. It feels like I could be April.
Well, we thought you
and
might.
I loved it.
Because I know you used to. Do you still write fan fiction?
Yeah. I just haven't. I've been working on one for a while that, like, I just never have time to write, really.
Sure.
But, like, I'll upload a chapter, like, once a year because I just never have time.
So what do you write fan fiction for?
So it's I
know what you used to write fan fiction for. I'm wondering what you write fan fiction for now.
It's the same childish shit, honestly, that I always have.
So what is it? I gotta know.
So this one I've been working on since high school. So it's like one of those that I can't, like, I have to finish. You know what I mean? But it's a Code Lyoko fan fiction. I don't even know if you know what Code Lyoko is. Do you?
I only know what Code Lyoko is because you used to be obsessed with it. I can bet you $5 Bloomworld has no idea what Code Lyoko is. It's
a French cartoon. It's really good.
Didn't you at one point do it for what's that Canadian fake game show?
Total Drama Island.
Did you?
Hell yeah!
You did. I thought you did.
Hell yeah! So did our brother.
Oh, I know. Except
he's written fan fiction too, believe it or not, and his was actually not bad.
Really?
There was a summer that like I'll never forget, and it was so much fun. But it was when me and Steve were in like, I think he was in like 7th or 8th grade, and I was like freshman or sophomore, somewhere around that time. And we took a summer, and I introduced him to fan fiction, and we both would just write. And then he wouldn't read my stories because he can't read, but I would read his.
He can read. He just literally refuses to read anything.
He refuses.
It's ridiculous.
But yeah, no, I used to be so ashamed in like high school that I wrote and read fan fiction, and it's just like, which is so goofy. It's such a stupid thing to be ashamed of. But
you need to embrace April and just let your freak flag fly.
Honestly,
do what makes you happy. I think she's a very good role model.
No, I literally like I was reading this, especially because I'm dating, you know what I mean? And like her confidence and like the way she carries herself and presents herself, I'm like, I need to channel more of this. Like it was actually like, I really liked this book. And I think April's just probably one of my favorite female protagonists that I've read in a couple of years, honestly.
Yeah, she was really strong. I really liked her.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Bloomworld, I know. I hope you're not dating. That would be distressing to me. But if you were to write fan fiction, what would you write it about? I have things I think, but or do you secretly write fan fiction? Is there a whole side?
I could see that. I could see that
too, actually.
What do you think it would be about?
What do I think it would be about?
Yeah, you said you had an
Oh,
idea.
no. This is what she does. You see that? You see how masterfully she just asked me a question to get away from answer? You answer first. What would you write fan fiction about?
Honestly, I have no idea.
No idea. I could
Mm-mm.
see you doing Gilmore Girls. I could see you doing some Gilmore Girls fanfic.
That would be
Because
cute.
I definitely
Yeah.
know there's some Rory relationships that you think went the wrong way. So I could definitely
Yeah.
see that.
And see, that's what the fun thing is that so mine I think I also identify with April because they say she writes like modern AUs, which
Mhm.
means that alternate universe that she like takes the characters but makes her totally own story up for them. And those are always what I wrote. I never
Okay.
wrote anything canon. Like
Mhm.
I would just know that I liked characters and I would put them in whatever world I wanted to be in. Because it's
Sure.
like if you're like as ambitious, like want to become a writer one day or anything like that, it's the easiest place to start because it helps you work through your story building and like how to set up settings and stuff like that without having to worry about character establishment because the
That's a good
characters are already
point.
established. So you can kind of just like pluck, or even if some people write like in the universe of the show or
Yeah.
book series or whatever with their own characters. So you could do the opposite
Okay.
where you can use their world to develop your own characters.
You know what else that works really good for? Creating from
D&D.
cloth D&D. Kubo
Yeah.
Quest, 9:30 Mondays.
my
If you'd like to see a wonderfully ran D&D game based on Final Fantasy that has a lot of characters I didn't have to come up with myself. It does work.
Hashtag shameless plug.
Oh, of
Literally.
course, yeah.
I'm not plugging my
shameless
fan
plug.
fiction.
I would like. You should. You should plug your fan fiction.
It has a lot of stories from high school me and 6th grade me that I don't have the heart to delete.
I know. Don't you remember? I thought I had the brilliant idea to start a podcast where you just read us your old stuff, your cringy stuff you're embarrassed by. Not to say you didn't
Oh,
get
yeah.
better, but you just read us your old stuff, and then we
No.
get to
No,
critique
thank
it.
you.
It'd
No,
be it
thank
would be
you.
like my dad wrote a porno, but with your high school fan fiction.
Yeah, but I also feel like little girl, like the little me inside would just die.
Until you read it
She
while
would
like crying and we're like,
just
that was
be
beautiful.
beaten with stone.
Okay, how's this? We'll let Bloomerald come because you know she'll be nice.
She would be nice. Or she won't say anything because she can't find anything nice to say.
Or that. Or she's like, I have no idea what Code Lyoko is, so I can't comment on this. Let's see.
These names make no sense.
I'm trying to think of what else Bloomerald might write fan fiction about.
Maybe Outlander.
You could
Maybe.
do some
If you're but
Outlander.
unless you're just happy with the way that it is.
I don't know. I really enjoy the way that Outlander's been written. I know that a lot of people have not, but I do.
Is there
My-
fanfic for Great British Baking Show?
I'm almost sure there is.
Oh, I'm
Has
sure
to
there
be.
is.
Has to be.
It's for everything. Like they have recently I've been reading a lot of anime, obviously. Like I read like Full Metal Alchemist and stuff like that, but
Interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of I mean pretty much anything you can think of. They have fan fiction about real people. Like bands.
That's creepy.
Like BTS probably has
Oh,
thousands.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna pull up AO3 while we're talking.
My fanfic would be about World War II.
You do like World
No.
War II a
It's
lot.
true.
It would not.
It would
You
be
fascinated by World War II. I don't. It's World War II. You just read everything you can about it. I don't know. It's like this
But
macabre
like
obsession.
the not like nonfiction stories, not like
Yeah.
we're gonna write
Right.
a fiction story.
I'm pretty
it has
sure
to
there's
be like the
Bible fan
survivor
fiction.
stories.
You do like those, yeah.
I
You
think
could just
there's
do
Bible
alternate
fan fiction for sure.
Bible fan fiction.
Yeah, like I think they
Whoa.
have yeah.
That needs to be read out loud.
Oh my
Yeah.
god! What if there's not what if? Because we've seen from this book that a lot of fan fiction tends to be sexually charged. Not all, of course, but there's definitely a market for
yeah.
sexually charged fan fiction. I now have the goal of finding a sexually charged Jesus Mary Magdalene fan fiction.
Oh, it exists.
It has to. It has to.
But you'll also find a lot of fan fiction is like homoerotic. So there's probably like Jesus and like
Judas.
Peter. I don't know any of the religious
that would
people.
be rough.
But
Jesus and Judas and the pegging. That's where we are.
and the pagan.
But then Judas's betrayal would be a lot more, relationship heavy. It's oh my
Okay.
god, there's something here, you all.
So
There's something
I was
here.
It's already been done. You just have
There
to get on the
is-
right
Not
website.
like this.
So I'm gonna read you some of the fandoms in AO3, but I went to the other fandom because I was like, maybe there's World War II. There is a World War II fandom. There is one fic, and it is in Japanese. I have no idea what it
Sorry.
is, but if you would like to write World War II fan fiction, there is
There's a market.
place
There's a
for you to
market
do
for
that.
it.
But
I
yeah,
feel
they
like-
have, I mean, anime, manga, books, cartoons, and graphic novels, celebrities and real people, movies, music, and bands, other media, theater, TV show, video games, and uncategorized fandoms. So really
Actually-
anything.
You know what I'm going to write a fanfic about? Our March book. I'm going to rewrite that whole thing. I'm going to rewrite that whole thing. And instead of making it a
Spoiler
series,
alert.
I'm going to just make it one book. I'm just kidding. I know that author put a lot of work into it.
I know. I for some reason feel guilty writing fan fiction about a book series. But like TV shows and all that are fair game. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
No, because more people put more work into the TV show. 'Cause
Yeah,
then you
but
have
I
the
feel like
production and the
that's-
screenwriters and like the
but that's just a
actors.
job for them. You know what I mean? Like
Sure,
I feel like an
sure.
author puts more of their like heart and soul into something.
I will give you that.
So,
So
I
that
mean,
was a-
there's a million Harry Potter fan fictions. So
Oh, I can see that.
millions.
I can see that. All right, so that was a huge tangent about AO3, but I
Yeah,
think it was a very
sorry.
good discussion. No, that was great. I was going to ask you about fan fiction because
Mhm.
we were both kind of on the outside of it. In fact, I
Yeah.
had to was it OTP? You didn't know what it meant, Bloomworld? Wasn't that
You
Yeah.
know what OTP
one of
meant?
yeah. This sweet summer child, I love teaching her about pop culture. Speaking of sweet summer child, that was a great transition. All right. That you should write that down. All right. But anyway, this was about Game of Thrones, right? I mean, this was
Yeah.
like such a targeted takedown of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It surprised me they actually mentioned Game of Thrones towards the end.
I know.
Like,
I
they
noticed
throw
that
it in
too.
there, which surprised me because Gods of the Gates was obviously a fictional parallel to Game of Thrones because everything
Mhm.
happened the same. They talked about how it was great until the last two seasons,
Until
and then
yep,
the two people
they ran
who-
out of books.
they ran out of
Yeah.
books. They ran
Yeah.
out of books. The two people that were running it weren't listening to anything. I think their names were like began with the same letter, didn't they?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah, it was like Ron and someone.
like
Yeah.
R&R,
Something like
because it was
that.
like D&D for
Oh,
Game of
yeah.
Thrones. Remember?
Yeah.
Because I kept getting confused. And it was just such a targeted Game of Thrones. It wasn't even shy about it.
Yeah.
But
Maybe this was her original fanfic for Game of Thrones.
it could be.
Now that would have been cool. You know, there's a lot of authors that like popular books started out as fan fiction. Twilight, or no, 50 Shades started out as a Twilight fan fiction.
I heard that.
Mhm.
Also, second time we've mentioned 50 Shades. I think we should mention 50 Shades of Grey every episode. We've mentioned it both times now. I would also argue that a lot of current books are just long fan fiction because there's been so much, and we've been reading it too. Bloomworld, you've read a bunch of them with just like the Greek gods. I mean, all of that
Mhm.
is just modern AU
Yeah.
fanfic. That's all it
Mhm.
is. You know,
Yeah.
you take characters established. What's the comic that you really like?
War Olympus.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
modern AU fanfic.
I mean, even Percy Jackson.
Exactly.
God, I'm obsessed with Percy Jackson.
Have you seen the Disney Plus show?
Mm-mm. No,
You should. It's good.
I know. I just don't have Disney Plus.
What's wrong with you people? Anyway, yeah, so I was the whole time just could not get over the whole this is Game of Thrones. This is Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And it resonated. And I was one of the people that didn't really hate the last season of Game of Thrones. Wasn't my favorite, but I was not one of that, burn the studio down people.
Yeah. I was fine with the first 3 episodes. The last 3 episodes made me want to burn the studio down.
I didn't like that one that was so dark you had to turn all the lights out.
I liked that one because I was at work and I snuck into an office and watched
Fair
it.
enough.
I'm not lying. The only thing I can remember from Game of Thrones is the wall and the first season where I had to run and hide because of the dogs. Do you remember that?
Yeah. Oh, I remember that.
All the cubs.
Yeah.
I had to literally run and hide on our staircase in our old house because I was like, I cannot see this scene.
She did that a lot because none of the wolves made it to the end but one. Anyway.
Literally, just the wall and the dogs. That's all I remember about Game of Thrones. Nothing else.
So let's talk for a minute, I guess, about the big kind of surrounding when she finds out and like the stuff with her parents. Because I thought that was really interesting because I like how they handled the classic misunderstanding. Because one's coming. There's always a classic misunderstanding in these. And it was one of those where I could, and it goes back to what you were saying, Suriname, I could see both sides. So she had spent all this time talking about how she cannot be around her dad. So what Marcus hears is, I need to make sure he's occupied. I need to keep her dad away from her so she can have a good time with her mom. Because she doesn't tell him what she's planning on talking about with her mom. Well, when they get there, he goes to do that, and she feels abandoned because he's spending all of his time off with her dad and entertaining him with his public persona. So she feels like he's abandoned her, and he's just reinforcing all of these things that her dad already thinks about her. Which is true. He is doing that, but he doesn't know he's
But he
doing
doesn't
that.
realize he's doing that.
And I like that the classic misunderstanding happened quick and got I mean, then they came clean about it pretty quick. It didn't drag out half the book. But it was another one of those situations where I was like, "Oh my god, they both got really good points here."
I know,
Like,
and
they both had really good points.
and she even admitted, like, I didn't tell you what I needed. Like,
yeah,
it was one of those, and he's like, I should have read the situation better. And she's like, well, I should have given you more information. And they had pretty much squashed it until the bomb dropped.
Sure. I think they argue well. Blue Merle, I think we should argue more like them. What do you think?
Okay.
Is that all you got to say?
Right.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, right now when we argue, you tell me to name 7, and then I start, and then you tell me that I'm wrong on all of the 7.
You don't name 7.
Actually, you don't even let me get past 4. And then I just get so mad that I give up and walk away.
Yeah, and then she just
and then you
leaves
get mad
the
at
conversation in the middle. Can you believe that?
Listen, I don't get paid to be here.
People on the YouTube be on my side. We should have a poll. So what anything else? I've not been trying to pick all the topics, just things I wanted to talk about. Bloomerald, was there anything in particular from this book that stood out to you as something that you really liked or really didn't like?
Well, flashing back to our first episode, where Suriname brought up the sex scene rating, I felt like they were kind of boring. Like, I was like, okay, I don't actually need these in my life. And as an audio,
there were more of them than I expected.
Yes, but they were just kind of like vanilla. Like, okay.
Well, you got to give it a rating. Hold on, you got to give it a rating. Then you can finish that.
What are we doing out of 10?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would say 3, maybe 4.
Whoa.
Suriname. I was gonna give it like 7 because it was still. I would not believe you. I'm not. If you give it higher than Fourth Wing, though, I will judge you.
Okay, your turn. Go. So what? You gave it a 7?
I say 6.5. 6.5.
Isn't that what I gave Fourth Wing?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to justify your 3, or just because you said they were boring?
I mean, I read a lot of romance, and so like, I feel like it's a very their scenes were very similar to other romance books that I've read, so it's not necessarily like something new and exciting. Like I liked Fourth Wings as much because of, I guess, the paranormal aspect with like the
Mhm.
signets coming through during the time. Like that made it exciting, even though if you took those out, it was pretty vanilla. But
Hence my 6.
They broke every
6.
piece of furniture in that goddamn room.
they did not with their bodies. They did with their signets.
Yeah. Their bodies just did vanilla stuff. Vanilla.
Y'all are
Wider
crazy.
than me. Vanilla.
Okay, listen to me. I enjoyed Fourth Wing scenes better than I enjoyed these scenes.
Fair.
Now, if
Well,
these
yeah, because
people,
you're a human with a pulse.
well, exactly. But if these people had broken things, I would have been okay. Was this the book where they broke the front table and he bought her a new one? Or was that a different one?
I don't remember that.
That's a different book that you've read.
Okay.
She reads a lot of
See,
smut with feelings.
there you
I know.
go. Somebody
Okay.
had sex and they broke like a front table and
See-
the person replaced it with marble.
Oh, that's some good sex right there.
See,
That-
there you go.
that-
That's why
that
this
is
one's
how
getting a
you
third
do it.
floor.
That's true.
Man, no one's
This
ever
one had
bought
no
me a
broken
marble
furniture
table.
from.
Yeah, so that's our bar. You have to break furniture to get above a 4.
Yeah, to get the
With
attention of
Bloom
these
World.
2 horn dogs.
Okay, He has to be 50 Shades. I just need broken furniture. Okay, that's all I need.
Although, if you were to like break one of those like bondage X things whilst doing that, you'd get like a 14 from both
He'd
of us.
explode.
Boom! You could just be doing this by yourself. I was gonna give this like a 6. 6? Yes, it's like the only number I know. Here's the thing. It
There's
balanced out
no
with
way this
Fourth
is a
Wing
6
me.
for you.
Listen to me. 5.5. I thought the scenes were more descriptive than they were in Fourth Ring, which made them a little bit more interesting. But I do like the Fourth Wing because of all the supernatural stuff. Because in Fourth Wing, I didn't feel like the sex scene itself was very descriptive. It was more about what was exploding around them, which was interesting. As far as just straight, quit looking at me like that. Quit it. As far as just straight descriptions of what they were doing, I thought there was more in this book. So if you have to rate it, it's a right around the same for me. Nothing super exciting, but it was interesting to read.
I don't
Would
want
you
to
like
do
to
this
comment?
anymore.
we could just read books that aren't centered around sex. I mean, that's you two are picking the books. I mean, you're doing this to yourself. I will say
We
there's been
picked
no
this
sex
book
in the March book yet.
because at least 2 of us could get it quite easily.
Which two was that? You two?
Me and Sarah, me and Suriname, because she had it on her shelf.
So
Yeah.
the sex scenes weren't anything to write home about. I will say though, with you, I thought there was a lot of them all crammed into a short part of the book because they don't
Yeah.
start until halfway, and then they do it a lot.
A lot.
Like a
And it's
lot.
funny because you would text me like, "Where are you at?" And I was like, "They just had sex." And he goes, "Yeah, that happens a lot." Which like, but it was like the first time they had ever done it. I was like, "Oh, it's the first." He goes, "Oh, they do it a lot after that."
Don't they?
They do.
Don't
They
they?
have a healthy
So-
life.
Yeah, I'll give this one a 5. I said 6 mainly just to get that reaction out of you, but I do think 5. It's like middle tier. Like
Yeah.
it's better than Fade to Black and implied.
Hate Fade to Black. Hate
know,
that shit.
Better than that, but it's nothing, it's nothing fancy that's like, oh, that'd be interesting to try. How did you not break furniture with that? It's interesting though, now that I know you like to break furniture, we need to go to IKEA.
I need to get out of this conversation.
I would like to say I'm not adding to this conversation.
I would like to go somewhere else.
3 days from now, what are all these boxes on the front porch? Don't worry about it. You need a new
Don't worry about
They're
bookshelf,
all from
right?
Amazon.
Got us a new coffee table. No reason. Anyway, my sister
From
and mother.
Suriname.
Next time
I
it's
hate
just me and
this.
Bloomer. I'll just assume Suriname won't show up anymore.
And it won't be
Okay.
a book about sex at all. You
Yeah, we'll-
won't talk about sex unless I'm here.
It'll be one of her World War II books. She'll make me read. Let's
I
talk
got
just
a
a
couple.
little bit about Cupid, okay? Because we talked about him briefly, but there is a second book in this series that's about him. Honestly, I think he's one of my favorite characters in the whole book.
Yeah, mine too.
I love his doesn't give a shit attitude.
I always love the goofy side character, but I really liked him.
So he has such a reputation for acting out and saying things he shouldn't that they give him a handler, right? What's her name? Do you remember?
Lauren.
Lauren or Lauren?
Lauren.
Okay.
Did I say Laura? I meant Lauren if I did.
Yeah, you were wrong. All right? You were just wrong.
My sentence just stopped.
You didn't listen to the audiobook.
I mispronounced it to Lauren.
It became clear throughout the book that he was slowly starting to like her, even though he talked about how much he hated her. And then I guess it wasn't revealed till the end that she's traditionally unattractive.
Yeah,
I didn't get that either. But then he gets a really crappy text from the producers that everybody hates, who backed out of the con at the last second. Surprise, surprise. Who are ruining the show. And then he has a meltdown on stage and he comes out about him being a fanfic writer. He comes out about hating the show. He just lays into the producers. And
because another thing is the message had she was tagged it, it was an email that she was copied on.
Yeah, and they called her a pig or something horrible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh. And all of the characters are like, oh my God, he just ruined his career. And me as a reader, I was like, hell yeah. It was one of my favorite parts of the book.
It was awesome. So, and it was the force that kind of helped April realize there were real consequences if he had told me and I wasn't as trustworthy as I am.
Yeah.
Because she watched Alex's career start to fall apart. And she's like, this is what he was afraid of, and that's a legitimate fear.
Did you like that part, Blue? That was one of my favorite parts.
Yeah. I mean, as I said, I like when authors create ties like this. The books don't necessarily have to be read together to figure out what's going on, but I like when authors start to develop a story and then it's most of the readers, or even I as the author, have fallen in love with this character, so I want to take it further. And so because of how he reacted in this book, that's what's making me want to read his book.
The other. Agree.
And part of me also wants to see the build up behind, to see if she built up behind why he was so reckless and everything in his book. Does it start out with chapter 1 of being this is why I'm becoming reckless because of this conversation, and then how it progresses, and then have that scene at the con midway through or something, and then continue the story. That's what I'm curious to see.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, did you read the excerpt? I didn't. Because I was wondering if it's a pseudo sequel and picks up after this event, or if it goes back. And
I don't think the excerpt was an option with the audiobook.
Mine didn't have an excerpt in it either.
Oh, really? Yeah. So the second book is called Slow Burn, and so it's I think it only had one chapter there at the end, but I didn't read it. But yeah, it's about him and Lauren. And I was kind of assuming it backed up and went parallel with the book, because there's a lot you don't get, but
I don't know. I definitely think I'll read it. I probably won't read it immediately, but I think I'll give it. I really liked the writing too. I liked Olivia Dade's writing style. Yeah. So I think I'll definitely end up reading the other two in the series.
Yeah, I did too. There were parts where I thought were a little cheesy.
Yeah, there were the parts his parts were more cheesy than hers. When after they broke up and that's all his inner monologue was, I was like, I get it, buddy. I get it. You're very sad. I get it.
And there were times when she was talking about the fan fiction, I feel like she sometimes went a little too heavy-handed with the slang. And I get it, but sometimes I felt like I was talking to someone who says LOL out loud. You know what I mean? Just because she would pepper it in a lot. And I'm like, okay, I get it. But it was just it gave it some charm.
But it's
I
also
thought.
realistic, especially when the server, because that is how we talk.
Yeah, in the server it made sense.
In the server,
In the
it
server, definitely
made
makes
sense. Yeah.
That is how we talk. Oh, she's indoctrinated. Listen to that. That's how we
Oh
talk.
yeah. I used to own, not like a server. I owned a forum in like
Some of our younger
middle
listeners
school.
don't even know what that is.
I know. It's pretty much like the same thing, but it was on a website called tv.com, which doesn't exist anymore. But
Sure.
they had all the shows and you could create your own forums, and I had like a OTP forum.
Okay.
And it gets pretty wild in there.
I'm sure it did.
As one of
I
the
can imagine.
weirdos, it's awesome.
So nobody's guessed what my fanfic would be about.
I feel like, Final Fantasy.
I already said it.
I don't think I did I? I was guessing yours.
I could see
Final
Superman.
Fantasy,
I could see all of it.
Yeah.
Honestly, you have such a personality for that. I still don't believe that you've never written one.
Who says I haven't written one?
I feel like I would have found it by now.
Oh, I could have written one and not published it.
You could have.
I did have one when I was a long time ago. I did have one that just stayed on my desktop. Never went anywhere else. It didn't get finished. I did like a chapter or two.
Was it in high school?
It was Final Fantasy, and yes, it was late high school. Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
No, today though, I'd probably do
Walking Dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd probably do Walking Dead. God, I love Walking Dead. But yeah, I could see me actually enjoying fan fiction, but I think I do my fan fiction through like D&D.
Yeah,
because it's similar. I mean, especially what
it
I'm
is
doing
similar
with Kupo Quest. So
no, it is definitely similar.
all right, I think we've come to the time of the show where we need to talk about our ratings, how we thought we did. How many acorns did we give this book? And I can't remember if we did out of 5 or out of 10 on this. Do you remember
I feel
from the
like we
first
did.
episode? I felt like we did out of 5 for the rating and out of 10 for the sex.
10 for the sex.
We
Yeah,
make no sense on this show. That's because we're the Nutty Nook Book Club. So yeah, what do you think? I want to hear everyone's rating.
I think for me it is probably a solid 4.
Okay.
Even maybe a little higher than a 4, but not a 5.
Okay. I was kind of leaning in the same 4, maybe 4.5. I really liked the book. I don't know.
I really liked it.
I've not really expressed it because I've been playing close to the chest. But no, I
I'm
really
used to
liked the book.
Goodreads because Goodreads won't let you do half stars.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, but I think I would say 4.5 as well.
Interestingly for me, from a just mathematical perspective, using half stars on a 5-star system is the same as using no half stars on a 10-star system. So it's really it all just is confusing. So yeah, we're still doing out of 10. We're just framing it as 5. What do you think, Bloom Ross? Please shut up and let me go to bed.
I actually gave it a 3.5.
3.5. Okay, what kept
Yeah.
you from going 4? Like what was it that you were lacking?
I mean, I really just had a problem with kind of the layout of when they had the conversations that they had, like when he told her, like kind of how everything played out. And it really bothered me that she was the one that chose to do the public display of affection at the con. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like that doesn't necessarily stick with her character from the rest of the book.
Sure. Well, he did do it first.
Sure.
In his
but
panel,
like
he did very publicly admit that he basically was in love with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like she wasn't at his panel. Like she was getting ready for her own. So like she didn't necessarily know about it. But then his coworker like texted him or called him or did something and was like, "You need to come over to my panel now." And so like the fact
she was getting
that like
grilled, right? Was she getting grilled from the audience about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once the question
got
area
asked.
opened up, it turned to her instead of to the actress.
That's right.
And so like that part kind of bothered me, but because I didn't necessarily feel like that was part of her character that we had learned from the rest of the book.
Sure.
Mhm.
But I mean, that's just me because I'm a super introvert. So, like,
Mhm.
I
See, I
like
didn't really
the
like. Yeah, I didn't like the panel stuff either. Really, it
yeah,
felt cringy and
yeah,
like his panel stuff. I liked that part.
Mm-hmm.
But then when it came to him like coming on stage at hers, I didn't like that.
Sure,
yeah.
sure. I mean, that was the
And
one
then like,
they kind of delved into a trope at the very end there. Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will say I did like. I see exactly where you're coming from. I hadn't really thought
Mhm.
about it, but yeah, it did seem a little out of character. I do like though that she took that opportunity because didn't she comment on the fact that the girl asking the questions reminded her of herself,
Was yeah.
and
mm-hmm,
she was. I
Mhm.
like that she took that opportunity to pay forward her own confidence to somebody else because
sure,
that's
Agreed.
her hard-won
Agreed.
confidence she's trying to bestow. I appreciated her character for that, but I do see where you're coming from. Towards the end, that very last scene, things went a
Mhm.
little differently than I thought that they would. So
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, that the part that you're talking about did not bother me. Like, I
Mhm.
appreciated that because I feel like she would have done that normally. Like,
Yeah.
if she would have run into this girl
Mhm.
at a coffee shop and like the girl asked the same question, I feel like she would have responded the same way.
Mhm.
But it just because it was at the con, she was like, "I'm just gonna put it all out there," which is
Mhm.
fine. I mean, people choose to do that stuff all the time, but like,
Mhm.
I just didn't feel like it stuck with her like the rest of the
Yeah, because
story.
she had been relatively private and was kind of just making her peace with the fact that their relationship would not be private, really.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I guess maybe it was because he had just done it, and she was just
Mhm.
like, I wonder if they had been a day between him doing it and her doing it, if she would have done it differently. Like, maybe she just got swept up in the, "Oh
Oh,
my god,"
maybe.
you know? I mean, maybe it was
Yeah.
just a lot of this book has her react whilst in the throes of heightened
Oh, some.
emotions.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so cool. The last thing I want to touch on, just because you teased it a little bit, was the whole time they're going through this story, someone is leaking scripts from the last season. Someone is leaking stuff, and people are getting mad, and they're accusing everybody. And the two producers are like, "We're gonna, there will be retribution." Blah blah blah. They get like daily
Mhm.
emails about it, and everybody's trying to figure out who it is. Well, there's this one guy. Do you remember his name? I just remember
Peter?
Fish Guy. Is it Peter? Uh,
Mm,
Mm,
Philip? It's a P name.
no,
it is a P name.
It doesn't
I'll
matter
look it up.
until the third book. If you can find it, let me know. Um, turns out, so everybody hates him. He's like the one person that likes the final season on the cast
Mhm.
and keeps defending the producers. And he always smells like fish because he buys like this really fancy tuna or something.
Mhm.
Is that what it was? Turns out
Yeah.
it was him leaking the leaking the scripts to his fish vendor for discounts. And then when what the show was ending, he didn't need him anymore. The fish guy got pissed off and finally came out and told him who it was. So
So stupid.
It
such
was
a
Peter, by the way.
is it Peter? Okay.
Mm.
Such a silly side story that doesn't matter
Yeah.
until I just learned that she wrote a third book about this dude. I don't want to
That's
read that one.
ridiculous. I don't want to.
I'm
I
interested in
will,
Alex,
but I
but
won't.
for Peter, I just don't think I care.
Right. I literally, okay, full disclosure, I finished this book an hour before we did this. And
You had a week. You were supposed to finish it last week.
yeah, when you text me, like, did you finish the book? I was like, I did.
You hadn't finished it when I
Not
texted you.
I literally had 15 pages left and I just read it. I was at my friend's house and I just finished it. And they were on the couch with me and I got to that part and I said, "Are you fucking kidding me?" And they were like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "It was the fish guy." And they were like, "What are you talking about?"
like the worst murder mystery ever.
Yeah, I was
Who
like,
was
that was
it?
the worst. I'd forgotten that was even a subplot that people are
Yeah.
leaking. And then I was like, wait, what are they talking about? Who? I
Yeah.
was like, the fish guy.
Isn't it in the
Yeah.
epilogue?
Yeah, it's
Because
in
the
the
epilogue
epilogue.
flashes forward a little bit, and they're all happy and
Mm-hmm.
living together, and
And
it
like
kind of just
engaged.
comes out. Oh yeah, they were engaged, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny. Thought I'd mention it. What do you think the title of that was going to be?
Shipwrecked is what it is called.
Yeah.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know we already had a name. I was thinking something.
Yeah, it's
fishy.
out.
It's already been
Oh,
published.
is it?
Mm-hmm.
I am so behind.
Yeah. Like, the whole series is done.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
just
she only
finding
doing
it.
3?
Mhm.
Or is she-
Yeah.
I think so.
She's only doing 3, but there's other characters. I love the girl that plays Lavinia. She seems chill. I want
Yeah.
to read about her.
I like the girl that plays Dido.
Oh yeah,
Kara.
Oh yeah, Kara's great. Kara's
Yeah.
great. So you get just little snippets of them because of just their texts or
Yeah.
they have a big group text, which Peter got removed from after the show is done airing. All right, so yeah, I liked this one.
Yeah, I did too.
Speaking of that, what are we doing next though, Bloomerald? Who's already
All
done with
right.
it, by the way.
Why'd
I
you
mean-
throw that much shade at me?
I was just tossing it back to you because you're usually the one that presents the book.
All right. Well, I'm going to share my screen so everybody can see what we're doing.
Like,
So,
I was like, what is this?
I wonder if this will work.
I'm sharing my screen.
We're
I
gonna
don't
see.
know. I'm going to try. I'm not going to try and hold it up since it doesn't pick it up because I have my background blurred. Anyways, the next book is What the River Knows by Isabel Ibañez.
I don't see
And
anything.
I was an audio book reader for this one. It's 17 hours, 16 hours and some change. And it is, I stopped sharing, so take your stress level down.
It didn't work. I'll just have to I'll throw up a picture.
Oh. Well, I tried to make it work.
Well, I think it would have shared, but I'm only looking at your camera. I expected it to replace your camera, but it didn't.
Oh, no, it did not. So this book is all about the mummy meets death on the Nile. It is a historical fantasy that is set in Egypt. The main character is from Argentina, and she goes to Egypt because that's where her parents spend most of their time. It's set in like the 1800s. I think 1883 is when it starts, maybe, if I remember correctly. And I have finished it, so I am going to zip my lips.
Sure.
Until next time.
Now we did pick it for a reason, though.
We
picked it
did.
for a reason. So what was that?
I did. Since March is international or like Women's History Month, I thought it would be nice to read a diverse woman author. And I thought, just sticking with Go Women Go. That's why I chose it.
Sure. Well, we've only
Plus,
read
I've been
women so
pushing
far,
off
which
my
is great.
audiobook hold for about 3 months, so I figured I'm going to capitalize on that too.
So yeah,
because I get it from the library.
What the River Knows, right? That's
Knows,
the name of it.
yes.
So we're off a little bit. So this is technically our March read. Now, we'll try to catch up in April with a shorter book because we've picked some long books. I mean, in January we picked 2. I mean, we were a little ambitious. So Bloomerald, though, is a rock star. She's already finished this and moved on to another book. I'm closing in on the halfway mark, and Suriname just found out about it. It is March 17th.
It's on Kindle Unlimited, though, so I got this.
I thought you were going to do audiobook.
I think I decided to do Kindle because I'm doing my other book club's book on audiobook.
Okay.
So I think I'll finish it faster if I do Kindle.
Okay. Keep us posted, and we'll try to record as close to the end of March as possible. And then we'll do a shorter book in April to try to catch back up and then get on a normal pace with monthly things. How does that sound? That sound good for everybody? Yeah. We got to stop picking 18-hour audiobooks back to back. Got to weave in a little bit of the shorter stuff.
To be fair, the spoiler alert audiobook was not 18 hours. I think that one was only like 10.
It was still like 400 pages, though.
Okay, sure. But I'm just saying.
It couldn't have just been 10.
I don't remember what it was. I'm in the car so much, they'd all just blend together.
hours go by. This though, I will say, was an easy read, I thought.
It
I read
was.
it. I just read the book. It was an easy read. It was breezy, easy to just keep going. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was one of those ones
It
to
really
where like I
was.
didn't really want to put it down. One of those books that didn't put me to sleep at night, which kind of sucked because then I'd be like, oh God, it's 1. I need to go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it was good. I really enjoyed it. It's the first thing I had read from Olivia Dade. I will probably read more. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed it. And one thing I'm enjoying about this book club in particular is I'm letting these people here pick the books. So I'm reading things
These
I never
people.
would read. And it's nice though. It's nice being kind of stepping outside of what my normal read is. So because this is not a book I would have picked up on my own, but I'm glad I did. So open your minds, people, especially to the guys out there. Oh, just try it out. It's great, actually. It's really good. Plus, you'll learn so many new words for genitalia that you've never heard before.
It's
Just
wonderful.
saying. My vocabulary is at least got 5 new words in it. And a
I just
lot.
finished a book before we recorded this, and it was all about calling genitalia all Christmas terms, like
I
his jingle
love that.
bells and her sleigh and all that kind of stuff.
Was this like a leftover Christmas book that you just now got to?
I need to
May or may
leave.
not have been.
I need to
Wonderful.
leave.
Well, I don't think from what I've read so far, I don't think we're gonna have to do the sex rating in book 3. Okay, so we won't have to do the sex rating in book 3.
Poop.
It's set in the 1800s, Sarah. If they have
How many
sex,
people had sex then?
the world is ending, okay?
It was scandalous, and you know it.
If they showed too much shoulder, they were stoned.
This girl, I will say,
That makes it
spoiler alert,
exciting. You wanted
does
things to break.
she does get in trouble going into the lobby by herself, like because she doesn't have a chaperone. I can't.
Ew.
I'll stop there. I cannot wait to have the discussion about what the river knows with the two of you. I think it will be. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be very interesting, just based on what I've read so far. I know exactly how Suriname is going to feel about some of the things that happen in this book. So, anyway,
No.
it's getting late, and if I don't let my wife go to sleep soon, she's going to be real mad at me. So, is there any final thoughts you'd like to talk about? Spoiler alert before we head out.
Fat girls rule.
Sure.
That's...
Boys too. Hey.
Yeah, fat boys rule too.
I wanted
Fat
to marry a
people.
fat boy, and that didn't happen, so...
No.
You did.
Decided to lose all the way. He's
I
still
know,
a fat
right?
boy in heart.
Yeah.
Not in body, though. I needed somebody to make me
Are
feel
you
small.
reverse fat shaming me right now? Is that what's happening? You're reverse
You
fat shaming me?
you have known my stance for as long
Yeah,
as we've
I
been
know.
together.
I know, but still, come on.
I wanted somebody taller and fatter, and I got neither.
Well, it's just because of my shining personality, I guess. Just like
Yeah.
Suriname said, you just got to know me, and you're like, I guess.
That'll do, donkey.
That'll do. That'll do, donkey. Well, that's a fun thing to end on. We'll see you next month for the Nutty Nook Book Club as we do What the River Knows. So that'll be our next one if you want to read along. And then hopefully we'll be able to get back on track after that to be more in line with the actual calendar that we base this on. So until next time, though, thank you, Bloomerald. Thank you, Suriname, for reading the books, for picking the books, and for just hanging out with me and talking books.
Always.
To watch my D&D
You're
trash.
welcome.
Never.
Have a good one, everybody.
Good night.